ago, I made a video about Vietnam, where I documented my travel journey in Sapa, Vietnam. And at the end of the video, I said,
hope you enjoyed this video and make sure to keep an eye out for the next one on our cruise in Ha Long Bay.
Clearly, this so-called Vietnam Part 2 never arrived because, well, I procrastinated. There's just so much to edit that every time I thought about it, it gave me a headache. Plus, there was so much going on constantly in my life that I never found the time to sit down and just grind through it. Anyway, you're not here to listen to me give excuses about why that video hasn't been made. You told me that you enjoy my travel content and that you wanted to see more. Seeing you guys subscribe to my channel in hopes that I would one day put out more travel stuff makes me so happy and actually motivated to go back through my footage for the video that you've been waiting for 2 years. Here is Vietnam Part 2. Okay, bear with me as I try to comb through my memory for the details of our trip, because all I remember was how amazing our trip was and how beautiful the landscapes were, and honestly not much of the logistical details. How do we end up on this boat? No idea. How do we get inside this cave? No idea. Why is there a huge statue of Buddha on this mountain? No idea. Did we eat pho out of our water bottles because we had no bowls or utensils? Apparently. Did I fall into a pool while I was strutting on the edge trying to look cool for the video? Yes, I did.
And that is on video.
But despite my incoherent memory now, I can definitely guarantee that this place in Vietnam is highly worth visiting, and you will not regret going. You have probably heard of Ha Long Bay already. It is one of the most iconic places representing tourism in Vietnam. When you think of Vietnam, you usually have two images. One, rice terraces, and two, Ha Long Bay. Ha Long Bay is a UNESCO World Heritage Site in northern Vietnam that includes over 1,600 little limestone islands rising from the ocean, and many of these contain huge hollow caves. When planning our trip, we saw recommendations to stay overnight on a Ha Long Bay cruise, so that's what we did. There were quite a few different options for cruises, and we intentionally picked a smaller and not as luxurious cruise because we wanted to avoid the crowd. And from what I remember, there were only 5 other people on the boat with us, plus our tour guide. And because our boat was so small, we actually had some really good conversations with everyone while we were all hanging out on the sun deck and drinking Ha Long beer. Looking back, I believe we visited Bai Tu Long Bay, which is the northeastern part of Ha Long Bay. We picked this route because we wanted to visit the island caves in the Bai Tu Long Bay area. And for those of you wondering, we booked in advance on a tourism site. I don't quite remember which one, but from the picture of this life jacket that we had on, it may have been Swan Cruises. The itinerary also seemed to line up, so maybe that's what it was, but to be honest, all I remember was just Googling. Now let me take you through the actual boat tour. In the morning of the tour, we were picked up from our hotel in Hanoi and driven to the port. We met everyone who was going to be on the same cruise as us, and we met our lovely tour guide. After we got on the cruise, we wandered around and took some pictures. Needless to say, the view was amazing, and the weather was also thankfully in our favor. We sailed to a floating station in the water that had kayaks, and we got off the boat and went kayaking. Our tour guide took us to a small island nearby, and we docked on a beach for a little bit. Some people went swimming, while some just stayed on the beach watching the view. It was really cool to be able to kayak through some of these landforms of the island and see the caves so closely. After we went kayaking, we went back onto the boat and had dinner with this really smoky thing that I don't remember what it was. But it looks really cool, and I think it was seafood. After it got dark, we had our shot at squid fishing. except we all sat there for like a full hour with no squids, so it was really just us sitting around and chatting. Until the very end, when my friend got lucky and finally got a squid.
Oh, stop.
Squirting.
I hate it.
She's like, no, I'm done.
My breakfast.
I
I'm
got
not
it.
joking, that's a good thing.
We have a bill. Is that over there? Oh, cool. How lucky you are.
Okay, hold on. Ah! It's making sounds! And also, I have no idea what happened to that squid. I think we ate it the next day, but I honestly do not remember. The next morning, we woke up super early, had a hearty breakfast, and we sailed to one of the many hollow caves on the islands of Ha Long Bay. And we went inside to explore. My footage here is kind of bad because it was super dark and I did not have a stabilizer or a tripod, but it was really, really cool. After exploring the cave for about an hour, we came back onto the ship, and with everyone on the cruise, along with the tour guide, we made Vietnamese spring rolls together for lunch. We ate, chatted more as we watched the boat sail back to Hanoi. It was honestly a super cute way to end off our little Ha Long Bay overnight cruise. This is one of the best tours you can have when you visit Vietnam, so I highly recommend you looking into staying on an overnight cruise if you can. It's really not that expensive if you find a smaller and cheaper cruise line. Also, the water in the bay is super calm, so you don't need to worry about getting seasick at all. Though you should probably watch out for monsoon seasons, like right in the middle of summer where you'll get a lot of rain, so you probably don't want to be out on a cruise in the middle of the bay during that time. But for most parts, you should be able to avoid that if you plan enough ahead of time. There are other cruise options to stay for 2 nights or even more. A lot of those take you way further out. You can also look into multi-day tours, which include the Ha Long Bay cruise, along with other day trips out to, for example, Sapa, which if you haven't checked out my video on Sapa yet, you should, because Sapa was also amazing. Thank you all so much for staying till the end, and for those who waited for this part 2 for 2 years, I want to really thank you. And honestly, what better way to thank you than by giving you Vietnam Part 3 and making you wait another 2 years for it. I'm just kidding. The more I looked back at my footage, the more I realized how many beautiful places we visited that I really want to share with you all. So Part 3 will be focused on our day trip out to Ninh Binh, also known as Ha Long Bay on land. And I promise it won't be another 2 years before I release Part 3. This is Cynzy, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Oh yeah, subscribe.